Hello and welcome back to the Friday Night Games Game & Watch series. Today is all about the Silver series. If you haven't seen the first Game & Watch video, you should check that one out first and then come back to this one after. The Silver in Silver series refers to the first 5 Game & Watches ever made, which each share a distinct metallic silver faceplate. These things are slick. We talked last time about how Gunpei Yokoi, inventor of the Game & Watch, wanted these things to appeal to both kids and adults alike, and as far as the design goes, I think he did a great job. These things definitely wouldn't look out of place in the hands of a businessman. In the US, the first 4 games were manufactured by a company called Mego under the Timeout Games banner. After the first 4 games, Mego went bankrupt and Nintendo took on distribution themselves. Aside from sharing the silver faceplate, each of these games also has the name of the game in the top right corner and the Game & Watch logo in the top left. They also have these 3 buttons on the bottom: Game A, Game B, and Time. Game A is typically the regular game, while Game B is usually a harder version of Game A. The Time button puts the game into standby mode and displays the time. Holding down the A or B button before playing will display your high score, which resets when you remove the batteries. They also have a small ACL hole in the front that allows you to set the time by pressing down with something sharp like a pen. On the back is a little battery cover which slips off quite easily and takes 2 button cell batteries. According to the manual, the battery life lasts anywhere from 6 months to a year depending on your usage, which is pretty incredible considering they never turn off. Putting the batteries in for the first time will cause all of the graphics to light up simultaneously. Each of the 5 games also has a unique color which defines it. For example, this one, Fire, is blue. Interestingly, the iconic alarm feature is missing from the Silver series and was only implemented afterwards. Alright, let's fucking play some Game & Watch! First up, we've got Ball. Released April 28th, 1980, this is the first Game & Watch ever produced. Here in the US, the game was called Toss-Up. The defining color for Ball was maroon or red. Being the first Game & Watch gives Ball more of a legacy than most other Game & Watches. Without its success, we may not have gotten any of the other Nintendo handhelds. Ball wasn't a major blowout hit or anything, but it sold enough units to convince Nintendo to continue making more. So what about the game itself? Well, alright, this was the very first Game & Watch ever made, so I'm not gonna blast it, but... oh my god. I mean, if the goal was to give people something more fun to do than push buttons on a calculator, then yeah, mission accomplished. But this one just doesn't do much to hold my attention. It's juggling. That's about it. It's as simple as it gets. To be fair, I do think it was a good idea to start out with something simple and easy to understand at a glance. I mean, come on, even Grandpa can recognize you're controlling this guy and not, like, these things. It also does a really good job of conveying Gunpei Yokoi's design philosophy. Strip off all of the unnecessary frills and just focus on the game itself. For Yokoi, the most important thing is comprehension, and I think that's a great design philosophy. As we go on, we'll see just how effective this method can be. But this is about as bare bones as it gets. Game A has you juggling 2 balls, which I'm sure the fellas can relate to. It starts off very slowly and speeds up over time. Each successful catch will net you 1 point, and if you drop a ball, that's it, you're done. Game A doesn't really get going until around 100 points, and if you lose, it's a slog to get back to where you were. Around the 300 point mark, the balls start doing this trippy thing. It kinda hurts my brain to look at, but I also kinda like it. Game B is definitely the better option in my opinion. It's more fast-paced and engaging. You're working with 3 balls this time and you get 10 points per catch. Overall, I do like Ball, but its legacy is more interesting than the game itself in my opinion. Still worth a try, but nothing mind-blowing. Next up, we've got Flagman, which was released a week after Ball on June 5th, 1980. Flagman's defining color is orange, and in the US, rather than Flagman, it was called Flagman. Important distinction. I like Flagman quite a bit more than Ball. In Game A, this smiling man... child... pirate? Prisoner? The Flagman holds up numbers, either with flags or with his feet, weirdo, and you have to repeat the pattern. You get more points the longer the pattern gets. Now I know what you're thinking. This is just Simon, and well, fucking yeah. It literally is just Simon. Simon? More like Flagman. Stupid fucking joke. In Game B, the Flagman holds up a number and you have to hold up the same number before the timer runs down. The timer gets faster and faster each time you succeed. I like both of these modes. Sure, Game A is just Simon, but what, you don't like Simon? It's super easy at first, but after a while it gets to a point where your brain starts second guessing itself and your memory betrays you. It's good stuff, and it's an addicting challenge. Game B also gets pretty intense pretty fast. Since it doesn't go on for too long, it makes you want to keep retrying. All around, Flagman is a good package, a nice follow-up and improvement over Ball. Oh yeah, now we're fucking talking Vermin! Known as Exterminator under the Timeout brand, Vermin was released a month after Flagman on July 10th, 1980. The signature color of Vermin is white, and I freaking love this one! Honestly, there's nothing super special about Vermin. It's basically just whack-a-mole. But I love whack-a-mole! You control this creepy, unthinking, unfeeling dead child with nightmare arms whose only goal is to murder these poor innocent moles with hammers. Personally, I can't relate because I love moles. They're adorable and tiny and have cute wiggly noses and big ol' gross hands. They're one of my favorite animals ever. Go subscribe to Maddie Molination on YouTube, you're welcome. These are even star-nosed moles, so they get extra points for being weird. I hate to kill the little guys, but this game is just so goddamn addicting. You can only move left or right and the character automatically hits the moles with the hammers if you're in the right position, so you've just gotta line yourself up. If a mole gets past you 3 times, you lose, and there's no way to undo any of your misses. Game B is more difficult than Game A, both because it's faster and because the moles move diagonally rather than just straight forward. It's tricky, but since I'm a sneaky clever boy, I can handle it. Shit! This one is highly recommended. Now we come to what I consider the peak of the Silver series, Fire. Fire was known as Firemen under the Timeout brand in the US, and I can only guess that that dumb name is what put them out of business. Fire was released on July 31st, 1980, 3 weeks after Vermin, making 2 great games in 1 month. Nice, Nintendo! Fire's signature color is blue. Unlike the other games so far, Fire seems unique in that it leans into the video game aspect more than the others. Juggling, Simon, and Whack-A-Mole are fun games, but they can be done in other mediums aside from video games. However, Fire is a game which can only be done in the context of a video game, primitive as it is. In Fire, you control 2 firemen holding a trampoline and you need to save the people trying to flee this burning building by bouncing them into an ambulance. If you let one of the victims hit the ground, then you lose a life. 3 strikes and you're out. Once again, there's no extra lives in this one. Originally, the building was supposed to be on the right side of the screen, but there was an error by Nintendo and the game got mirrored. It's just a fun little fact. Fire is one of my favorites, and it's the only one from the Silver series that I actually own. Game A starts off really slow as usual. You have to bounce each person 3 times before you can get to 1 point. But as the game progresses, it becomes more difficult to figure out where to be and to juggle the evacuees. Game B is a faster version of Game A, with more evacuees coming out of the building sooner and more frequently. This one is another highly recommended one if you get the chance. And finally we have Judge, the final game in the Silver series as well as the first multiplayer Game & Watch. Released 3 months after Fire on October 4th, 1980, Judge is a bit of a step down compared to Vermin and Fire, but I still like it. It's also the only of the Silver series games to have 2 signature colors, both green and purple. The green version was released first only in Japan and is much rarer. There was a mistake in that version of the game where the left player had an advantage. They corrected the game and re-released it with a purple color scheme. Game A is a single-player match against a computer, and in Game B, 2 players compete against each other. Each player controls one of these 2 little gremlin creatures and competes to see who's the most judgmental. There's a short countdown and then both judges automatically hold up a number. Whoever has the higher number tries to bonk the other person on the head with a hammer, while the other tries to dodge the bonk of judgment. The top button for each player is the bonk button, and the bottom button is the dodge button. You get 3 points for bonking someone and 2 points for dodging. If you hit someone while having the smaller number, how dare you? Or if you dodge when you have the higher number, how could you? The other player gets an additional 2 points. First player to reach 99 points wins and is deemed the most judgmental person. Congratulations, fuck you. It's a pretty fun game against a computer, but it's much more fun to play against another person. Definitely worth checking out, especially if you have 2 people. And that's the Silver series. Each of these games are classics in their own right. They're all very simple and none of them are particularly unique in concept aside from Fire. It's definitely clear that these were Nintendo's first attempts, but they're still fun to play. Makoto Kano's graphics especially help the games to stand out overall and build a distinct identity. Overall, the Silver series is a great launching point for the Game & Watch and paved the way for the series as a whole. Next time, we'll be taking a look at the Gold series, so stay tuned and subscribe for more Friday Night Games.